You're watching the TBA Member Spotlight Series. Each episode, TBA President Michelle Greenley-Sellers has a virtual sit-down with members from across the state to check in and chat about topics of importance to the Tennessee lawyer. On today's episode, Michelle talks with Kirsten Jacobson, who is a staff attorney at the Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services.
Kirsten Jacobson is a staff attorney at Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services, and she also serves as the site administrator for Tennessee Free Legal Answers, which I'm sure she'll tell us more about today. She was recognized as the 2017 TBA Law Student Volunteer of the Year for her extensive pro bono efforts while at the University of Tennessee College of Law. She serves on the TBA Access to Justice Committee and is a respected authority on a variety of topics ranging from innovative technology in legal service delivery models to the public service loan forgiveness program to the merits of musical and comedy improvisation. Welcome, Kirsten. For our members who do not know you, can you tell them a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. As Michelle mentioned, I'm a staff attorney at the Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services, and I've been with TALS all 5 years of my practice. I graduated from the University of Tennessee College of Law in 2016, and before that, Vanderbilt University for undergrad. I'm from Nashville, very originally. I was born here and lived in the Brentwood area until I was around middle school age. At that point, my family moved to Fayetteville, Georgia, and then on to a town outside of Wichita, Kansas, where my parents still live. I came back to Tennessee to go to Vanderbilt, and I haven't left since. So I consider it my home. I consider myself a native-ish, not all the way, but almost. And I've been back in Nashville for 5 years now.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at TALS?
Sure. So at TALS, we are a statewide nonprofit. We serve all 95 counties with our programming, and we also serve the legal aid attorneys, advocates, and staff across the state with training and development and resources. My role really spans both of those audiences that we serve. One of my primary roles is coordinating a grant between the Department of Human Services in Tennessee and the 4 legal services firms across the state, serving low-income families, helping them access social and legal services in a really innovative 2-gen whole family-based framework. My other main role, Michelle, you mentioned earlier, is serving as the site administrator for Tennessee Free Legal Answers. TN Free Legal Answers is an online legal clinic. It's at tn.freelegalanswers.org, and it's a really great way for attorneys to access pro bono opportunities no matter where you are. And on the client side, it's the same thing. Clients can access the website 24/7 from their phone, from their computer, send in their legal questions, and know that they're going to get a trustworthy response from a Tennessee attorney. We actually just reached over 20,000 questions answered in December 2020, which was a big milestone for our site. And I'm really proud of Free Legal Answers because it was actually started in Tennessee and has now grown to this national platform. My role with Free Legal Answers involves managing volunteers, coordinating volunteer events, making sure we're doing outreach to clients, and maintaining all of the data and site operations for the clinic. Otherwise, at TALS, I get my hands in just about every project we have going on. I get to do quite a bit of outreach, working with people in the community and other nonprofit partners, working with our website, helpfortn.org, developing programs like the Legal Wellness Checkup or our Justice Bots, which is a new program that we have. And then occasionally I'll offer legal advice on our free legal helpline, 1-844-HELP-FOR-TN. So I really get to put a lot of my skills to use and work with a lot of people across the state, which I think is why I get to enjoy my job so much.
Thank you. How has your work changed over the past year?
That's an interesting question. As a statewide organization, we were already doing a lot of virtual meetings and remote work. Although I will say there were times in 2019, 2018, where I drove from Memphis all the way to Johnson City in the span of a week, stopping many places in between. So certainly less of that, but with colleagues across the state and really across the Southeast at TALS, we've been doing Zoom meetings and things like that before the pandemic. I will say one big change we've had is the volume. A big increase of people that need legal services don't know where to go and likely can't afford to pay for a lawyer right now because of everything that's been happening in the world. So a big increase in volume, and especially on TN Free Legal Answers, we were uniquely positioned to start handling virtual clinic models, both with attorneys answering questions online and then clients who knew they could go online and access help as well. Otherwise, of course, we're seeing a big increase in people that are asking about work-related questions and housing-related questions. Certainly a big focus of ours has been providing assistance with the eviction crisis, looking at how we can provide resources for renters and landlords that need help, and trying to create programs that can reach them. Certainly some of the challenges of the past year have been trying to find ways to reach clients. When we're not meeting in person, it's not as easy for me to pop into another nonprofit staff meeting to share our resources or go visit with a court clerk's office, with courts being not totally, but pretty closed. For the last year, I know everyone was operating on different systems and some were more open than others. But court clerks and libraries tend to be one of our biggest referral sources. So without as much in-person traffic in those locations, we certainly had to be a little bit more strategic on how we were reaching out to people that needed our
help. You came to TALS through an Equal Justice Fellowship. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process and how it set you on your current professional path?
Yeah, absolutely. So Equal Justice Works is a national provider of fellowships for attorneys. They have many, many different programs. The one that I participated in is called the Design Your Own Fellowship. What the fellow does is identifies a need in their community and proposes a solution. It's really entrepreneurial in spirit, in that the fellow really creates this project from the bottom up. It's not something that already exists, and you really use data and community needs to craft this project. So the fellow has to find a host organization, a nonprofit to work for with some attorney supervision. And then you work with Equal Justice Works to pitch to different sponsors. So each fellowship, the fellow salary is covered by a generous sponsor, and they have, I think, about 65 to 75 Design Your Own Fellowships each year across the country. So my project was based in the Legal Wellness Checkup, which is an online application that I designed through my fellowship that helps the everyday Tennessean identify legal issues in their life and know where to get help. We had a statewide civil legal needs assessment done right before I joined TALS that identified many people that have legal problems either don't know where to go or don't feel comfortable seeking that legal help. Maybe, they've been turned down in the past, or someone's told them that's not a legal issue, or they're just, nervous to ask for help. So we wanted to create a tool that would really empower people to find the help that they needed and know when it was time to call a lawyer, when it's time to go down to your local legal aid office and ask for help. So my project really revolved around the legal wellness checkup. So after partnering with TALS in my 3L year during law school to develop this project and complete the application, I then interviewed with potential sponsors, and my fellowship was actually sponsored by International Paper in Memphis, which was a great way to meet more lawyers in Tennessee and really engage with an active legal department. I, of course, was successful in pitching that fellowship. And so then for the next 2 years at TALS, I mainly focused on the legal wellness checkup and then other innovative tools and platforms that we could put into play at TALS. My project was the first one in Equal Justice Works to focus specifically on technology and innovation. A lot of projects will focus on a substantive area of law, but I had a lot of freedom in mind to really explore all areas of civil legal help that we provide in Tennessee and just focus on making it a little bit easier for people to find those resources and a little bit more efficient maybe for some of the attorneys that are practicing in those areas.
Tell us what access to justice means to you.
That is a big question, and I don't think we have 3 hours for me to answer it. But to me, access to justice is access to the right legal care for every single person, whatever that looks like for them. If it's hiring a lawyer to represent you in court, if it's meeting with someone to put eyes to a lease so that you know what you're agreeing to, if it's getting advice on what is and what isn't a legal issue, if it's accessing a tool like our Renter Defender program that helps provide legal information for renters to know how to protect their rights. I think access to justice has so many different faces, but for me, it's all about creating programs and processes that everyone in our community can find what they need, whatever that might be. It comes in so many different shapes and sizes, and we can look at, the system as a whole, how we're serving our individual communities and clients. It goes from macro to micro and everywhere in between, but to really focusing on how I can help other attorneys leverage their capacity to reach more people, help other attorneys reach the communities that they need to reach to be impactful, and really scaling our legal services so that we can provide a really fair and equitable and accessible system for all Tennesseans, really.
You have been involved in pro bono legal services for quite some time. How would you recommend another attorney get involved in pro bono services? What would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that pro bono is for everyone. There is not one certain, one size fits all for pro bono. And that's why I think we have such a great community in Tennessee that can really help attorneys find the right place for them. So first, I would suggest to think about what kind of time commitment you have and what you're interested in. Some attorneys really like to stick to what they're used to, right? If you typically work with corporate law, maybe it's helping nonprofits incorporate or advising small businesses. If you don't have time to commit to an entire divorce case, maybe it's answering questions on Tennessee Free Legal Answers. It takes 10 minutes to answer one. So I would say, think about what you're interested in and how much time you have to give right now, and there's going to be an opportunity. You can always reach out to us at TALS as a statewide organization. We can certainly help direct you in the right way. You can also reach out to your local legal aid office and ask what they need, or offer up what you have to give. I think that legal clinics are a great way to get started, whether it's on the phone or now over Zoom or hopefully soon in person. A commitment of 4 to 5 hours giving advice to people that walk in, but you can also sign up to help people draft wills or help advise people that are getting ready to go to court. So really, there are so many different opportunities available in Tennessee. I think just figure out what you care about and find a place to do that. The other thing is we need pro bono volunteers in just about every area of law. So it's not just family law. It's not just housing law. It really runs the span of what legal issues people might face. So I think just taking that first step and reaching out to any of us that work for nonprofits or law firm partners or colleagues you may have that are involved in pro bono work, just reach out to us and we can help connect you to the right opportunity, because again, I fully believe that there is the perfect pro bono opportunity for everyone.
What if you're somebody that doesn't do divorce work? Is there somebody to help you along, to help you with a divorce case, to help pro bono with something like that?
Yeah, pro bono can be a great learning opportunity if you want to learn more about a certain area of law, or if you're a relatively new lawyer trying to get experience. One thing to do is partner with someone else, either in your firm, maybe that's working on those cases, to learn a little bit more. But another thing that you can do is join one of our Tennessee Free Legal Answers clinics, where you may work with other attorneys or law students to help do some research in that area. You can really get a good feeling for different areas of law through work like that, because you have time to research before you respond to a question and, kind of dip your toe into that area of substantive law. But I'll also say that all of the legal aid organizations across the state really provide robust training programs for their volunteers. I know I certainly provide materials and information, and I'm always available when my volunteer attorneys call to ask questions. So, attend a CLE in an area that you're not interested in. Call the organization that you want to volunteer and see what they're offering for training. And know that we as volunteer program managers want all of our volunteers to succeed and have a good experience also. So I think that just accessing some of those training materials are really important too.
That's great advice. So who inspired you to become a lawyer?
That is an interesting question. I did not know many lawyers growing up. I don't think I really understood really what the practice of law was until I don't even know if I still do now. No, so for me, I was really academically interested in law school, which is kind of what pushed me in that direction. I knew that I wanted to somehow work in the nonprofit realm. I knew that giving back to my community and helping others get involved in their community, whatever that may look like to them, that's always been something I've been passionate about. I don't know really how else to explain it. And so I thought, well, maybe law school would be the best way to gain a little bit more knowledge and figure out a way to do that. So I think just having that desire was what pushed me into law school itself, but I can't say there was one specific reason why.
Okay. You were part of the Tennessee delegation that participated in ABA Day on the Hill in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago. You joined the TBA president, the executive director, and other bar leaders to discuss issues that were significant to lawyers. What are some of the policy issues that were addressed that are most significant to you?
When we traveled to ABA Day on the Hill in 2019, there were two main priorities that the ABA had. And I was lucky enough to get to speak on both of those to the entire ABA delegation at the welcome breakfast, because I do feel really passionately about both of these issues. The first one is funding for Legal Services Corporation. Legal Services Corporation is the largest national funder of legal aid in the country. So the four organizations that we have in Tennessee that are funded by LSC are Legal Aid of East Tennessee, Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands, West Tennessee Legal Services, and Memphis Area Legal Services. And there are organizations just like those firms across the country that do similar work and all receive funding from LSC. LSC is funded through the budgeting process at the federal level. So we were speaking about maintaining and even increasing those resources and talking about the impact that legal aid can have on our communities on the smaller level and also our communities as a whole. So I spoke to the delegation about some of the work that we've done here in Tennessee and some of the return on investment that we've seen from those dollars coming into our communities. Our civil legal needs assessment told us that for every $1 invested in civil legal aid, there's an $11 to $12 return on investment, which comes back into the families that we're working with, whether that's, being able to get an expungement and then find a job and be able to support your family, or to negotiate out of a bad lease into a home that's closer to the school that your children attend so they can have a better experience in school. So it was really one of, if not my favorite professional memory thus far, being able to share some of those stories, both with our elected officials and with the other attorneys that were there advocating on the Hill that day. The second issue was maintaining the public service loan forgiveness program, which is for students or professionals that have federal student loans and work for a nonprofit or work in a government agency, which often includes things like schools, firefighters, police officers, social workers, of course, attorneys that work for nonprofits and in government agencies. Maintaining that program to enable professionals that have student loans be able to take a career in those areas. And what the program does is it requires those professionals to make payments on their student loans, just like everyone else, for 10 years. And after 10 years, which is the standard loan repayment time for federal loans, after 10 years, 120 payments, all of those payments made on time while working for one of those qualifying employers, the remaining balance of the student loans is forgiven and is not taxable. That forgiveness is not taxable. And what the program allows nonprofit agencies and community agencies to do is feel a little bit more comfortable in recruiting and retaining talent as well. It's a big benefits draw for employers in that sector to be able to know, we may not be able to pay as much as the for-profit sector sometimes, but that there is an additional benefit here to help kind of support people that want to make a lifelong career in public interest and not have such a big hit financially. So it's, again, something I feel really passionately about, and I was able to share again on that national level, which is so important to be able to say, look, here's what we're doing in Tennessee. Here's how great our attorneys are. Here's how great our access to justice system is. We really care about taking care of our profession. I think that's so important for me thinking about public service loan forgiveness. It helps us take care of our fellow attorneys and helps us protect some of, the most, the jobs that we really need in our communities. And again, it goes beyond lawyers. Like I said, a lot of first responders, social workers. It allows us as attorneys to advocate for those professions as well. So it was a great experience to be able to join that delegation, certainly something that I will always remember. And I just really enjoyed getting to see how impactful our organization can be on the national level too.
We appreciate that you were there as well. You have been involved with the Third Coast Comedy Club in Nashville for a couple of years. How did you connect with the improv community?
It is as great of a story. I saw a post on the internet about it, and I thought that sounds fun. Maybe I ought to try improv. No, I grew up doing musical theater in high school and have always really loved watching live shows, whether it's, musical theater or comedy. Just, I really enjoy watching performing arts. And when I learned that we had an improv club in Nashville, I thought, why not try a class? If I hate it, I never have to go back, but maybe it will help me, meet some people outside of the legal profession and get my mind off of everything else for 3 hours a week. And I just ended up really loving both the art form, but also the community that really has been built around that. I started off just taking classes, beginner classes. What is improv? I'd seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, and I didn't know anything else about it. And I just really found a fun spot where I could really just explore different characters and different places and settings. You never know what's going to happen next. I mean, that's the beauty of improv. It's all made up on the spot. And I also see it as kind of a team sport. You're up there with, 4 to 5 to 10 other people, and your job is to make everyone else look good. That's what a good improviser does. So it's really a team aspect to it as well, which I really enjoyed. And I think it's contributed much to my mental health and happiness over the last few years, just to be able to have that creative outlet and have a really strong community that supports you. And no matter what you do, they say yes and.
That sounds great. Are there any practices or habits that you adopted in 2020 that you think you'll carry forward?
I think being really mindful of the work-life balance was a new skill for me. You know, working from home, living at home, being in my house all day with my dog, taking time out of the day to stop and go outside and go for a walk, taking time to stop and go to the kitchen and make lunch, things that usually I feel like I would have rushed through in order to get to work, get home, get to whatever meetings I have in the evening, go see family members, go see friends, try to have a social life, all these things. It really made me slow down and put a lot of intentionality behind everything that I was doing. And I think that's so important. And it was really, I think, a palate cleanser for routine. And I feel already more thoughtful in how I'm planning things out now that we're starting to trickle back into the office a little bit, you know, making sure that I'm still prioritizing what I need to do throughout the day, and that's okay. It's been certainly an interesting change. I think those are some of the positive changes that have come from the last year in my personal book.
Great. I've heard that you like to cook and bake, and I've heard that your Instagram feed is filled with some pretty amazing dishes that you've created. So have you always enjoyed cooking?
I have, yes. I grew up in a family where we were always cooking and always encouraged to cook. You know, it was always a special treat for us to be able to pick out what we would cook as kids or be able to, you know, help mom and dad out in the kitchen. So I definitely have always loved that. And for me, it's a huge stress reliever to go, you know, have either a recipe or not a recipe and just a lot of ingredients and experiment and see what comes out of what I cook. And I also think that cooking for other people is such a great way to show that you care and, you know, share some special time together. So for me, it's always been a big part of my life. My sister is a professional chef, so that helps too. I have some good inspiration and someone to call for advice. But, you know, I think it's just always been something that's been really important to me. And being able to share that with others is important. So certainly during the last year, posting some of my creations on Instagram was maybe the best way to get them in front of people. But I'm really looking forward to having my friends and family over for dinner and, you know, having larger groups of people where we can cook together and enjoy.
Do you have a favorite recipe?
I don't. I wish I did, but I think my favorite is when I don't have a recipe. I've got a bunch of random, you know, fresh veggies from the farmer's market, which is my favorite place to go grocery shopping. And I just start experimenting with what sounds good, what tastes good, and maybe based on something I've had in the past. I really like experimenting.
That sounds delicious. You've been practicing for about 5 years. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you have any advice or words of support that you would give to other young lawyers?
Sure. I think one of the things I've discovered about being an attorney that is important, and I think we don't pay enough attention to it, is that lawyers are creative. And it's important to embrace that creativity and really think about what you can do, what your skills can do to move your practice forward. For me, my creativity came out in that Equal Justice Works application and in some of the work that I do developing our chat bots like Renter Defender or the Legal Wellness Checkup, or when I'm helping design outreach materials. But for a lot of lawyers, their creativity comes out as they're crafting litigation strategy or as they're working on a deal that's going to go through with multiple different parties involved. So really, I think embracing that creativity, knowing that you can design your own career, design what your role looks like and make those steps. That's what I've been able to do in my position. I know that for everyone else, that looks a little bit differently, but having just knowing that you can kind of create your own path, whatever that looks like for you, and really embracing that. I think just having that creativity and not being afraid to say yes to some things can really pay off well.
Thank you. You mentioned the chat bots. I said box. Chat bots a couple of times. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of really great legal resources in Tennessee, whether it's, booklets that our legal aid partners have put together, or the Help for TN blog, where we walk people through legal information and where to go get help. None of this is legal advice. None of it's, taking the place of a lawyer or anything like that. But really, we just want to help direct people where they need to go to get help. But one of the things that we found is not everyone wants to or has the ability to sit down in front of a computer screen and read. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're clicking around. Maybe people don't have a high literacy level, or it's, difficult to see, or it's difficult to scroll through your phone and read a document sometimes. And so what the chat bots allow us to do are allow people to engage with those resources either through, text and scrolling, or by talking to your phone or computer. So for example, Renter Defender, as I mentioned, it helps tenants find legal resources either in their community or from legal aid or online, or get connected to a bar association if it is that they need to hire an attorney. But rather than just scrolling through and not knowing where to go, can help you kind of branch logic your way through different resources. You can engage with it by talking to your phone. And it's just a great way to access resources online. We also have a search function on our website with one of our chatbots where you can say, I'm looking for information on debt, and it can help connect you to the right booklet or video or whatever resource it might be. It's just kind of goes back to what is access to justice, and figuring out ways that we can make it easier for people to get to the fantastic help that already exists. So I'm really proud of our suite of chat bots. They are our justice bots. They all have little personalities and capes and everything. And I think I do see that as a place where TAL specifically is looking to expand our resources so that we can just really help people get where they're going a little bit faster, maybe.
Well, I have found them so interesting, and they're so innovative, and I'm sure they're very helpful to the public. So thank you for those, and thanks for sharing what they are. So some people may not know what they are. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today about your interests or other activities that you're involved in? I'm not sure how you have time, but
time management skills are very important. No, I think one of the things that, going back to kind of what I've learned over the past 5 years and what I hope to continue learning in the future, is, again, just saying yes to some things, but also knowing your limits. So being really intentional with how you plan your time and how you plan your day, but not being afraid to say yes to new and exciting things. I think that's served me well over the last 5 years, and I hope it serves me well over the next 5, 10, 20 years. And then I also think, as a lawyer, getting involved in your community, whatever that looks like to you, through pro bono work, through bar organizations. Again, every minute I've invested in things like that has only helped me and helped others. So I can't speak highly enough about the legal community and really the strong access to justice community that we have in Tennessee. I think we take care of each other, and I hope that we continue doing that in the future.
Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for being here today. You really are an inspiration to me, to our members. You have been doing pro bono work, like I said, for years. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.